Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo chat live stream where we come together as a community and talk about photography. And as always, I'd like the audience to drive the conversation because this is really an open Q&A to help you with your camera settings or photography tips and tricks, things like that. And also to catch up on things I've been doing. Hopefully I can share with you a few things that will be somewhat educational. But I'm still getting a little bit over my cold. As some of you know from the previous couple of streams I've done this week, I kind of fell under the weather. But I'm getting better. I'm on the mend. And anyhow, good to see everyone here. We'll just get right into it. And I see Henning's here. Ahoy, how are you? And unfortunately, the little pop-up chat window's not working. So I'm just going to have to read them out loud rather than have them show on the screen. And good morning, Tom. And Marcia, good to see you. It says, good morning, Rob. And to all around the planet, I chatted with David Crooks in St. Augustine. Yes, I did see a photo of you and David together down there. Hopefully you guys had a good time and got some great shots. You know, Florida, you know, you can just kind of point your camera in any direction and get a bird photo down there. So many colorful and exotic birds down there. It's beautiful. I'll have to make my way down there sometime. And Jeff, good to see you. And Abhinav, hello. And Dan L, good morning. And David. Oh, David is here. Oh, hey, David, how are you? I'm going to see you later this afternoon, I hope. And happy birthday. Okay, let's see. And I see Eric, good to see you. Good morning. And Henning, thank you for the audio check. And Tommy, good to see you. Good morning. And Roger, good morning. So, yeah, so I tried to go out. I think that's what's extending this cold a bit because I kept going out even though I wasn't feeling one. As you can tell by the way I'm dressed, the weather's gotten a little bit cooler this week. And I didn't dress, I guess, enough. I was cold and sick, which I should have stayed home for just a couple of days and just got better rather than going out. But I can't help it. It's so nice out sometimes, even though it's a little cool. We had some really beautiful weather. And, you know, we have really good local spots here, Hunley Meadows and Dyke Marsh, Bellhaven, that are great for birding. So I did get a few shots, and I've posted a few of them on my Flickr and Instagram, so you can check them out there, and I'll share a few here during the stream as well. And let's see. I'm just checking up. Yeah, another trip around the sun, right, David? So I guess sorry, I'm still a little congested. But yeah, I did some birding and I have my bird settings about 99% now for the OM1 and the OM3. And what I'm working out is just a little bit on how I'm configuring my buttons to quickly switch between different modes. So, you know, I do a lot of birding here with my OM system cameras, my 300 f4, and I have basically 4 settings. One, you know, is just bird on a stick, you know, so the second one is bird in flight. The third one is pro capture, which really should be the same as bird in flight. I'm thinking about just eliminating my bird in flight and just make it bird in flight pro capture. The reason I don't do that now is because sometimes I don't want pro capture. You know, I don't want to just be in pro capture all the time. So that's the only little thing I'm still a little bit torn about. And then the fourth one is really if I'm going to be using flash. I don't use the flash at night. It's going to be basically in daylight or cloudy days. But sometimes, flash will just give you a little bit of fill light that you need, especially birds that are a little bit far away and in shade. So I have those 4 settings, and then I have a 5th on the OM3. You can do 5 custom settings, but the 5th setting is just basically normal, right? Just normal everyday type camera settings, but and not specifically for birds. And then I have the buttons programmed so I can quickly switch between C1, 2, 3, 4, right? In the field. And it's easier on the OM1 because it has more buttons. On the OM3, it's a little trickier. But once I kind of get my button layout sorted, I'm going to make a video on my new bird and flight settings. And I'm going to try and do some demos in the field. Kind of like I did with my last bird and flight settings video. But I've changed quite a bit of my workflow since then. So this is we're always evolving, right, and continuing this craft and modifying how we work. But I'm getting much better results. Generally speaking, I'm getting much better results with respect to exposure, right, and more consistent results in the capturing process. But really, there's not much change in the autofocus performance. The settings for autofocus are pretty much the same. A few little tweaks here and there. But like I said, I'll make a video. I'll make a video on that. But that's what I've been working on every time I went out, is, okay, I have the button layout, I have the settings I want, let's go out and try these and see how they work, and then I'll tweak them while I'm out in the field, and then I'll come back and I'll change everything. And I'm going to save all of these settings and upload them to my website for free, okay? So that you can load them onto your camera, tweak them the way that you want, and then because everybody's workflow and the way they think about capturing images is different, but the core thing, the fundamentals of how I capture the birds, work basically with any camera. But I'm just gonna give away my settings later after I make the video. Okay, so there's that. So let me show you a few images from that. Let's see, what's the best way? A lot of backyard birding. So let's see. Are they here? Okay, so here's that's not a bird in flight. I think you may have seen some of these. But this is the OM3 300 f4. But you can see, if we go from shot to shot to shot, like these 3, and I'm just going to toggle between these 3, you can see the exposure is very, very consistent. And I'm getting good results there. And of course, there's Ellie. Let's see, let's go to another bird shot. We'll go in here. These were at Huntley Meadows. And like I said, I may have shown these before, but I didn't really talk about my settings and things. Let's see. These little swallows and robins, these are all tough to get sometimes. A tern, I know I definitely showed these images before. There's the osprey again. That's over at Dyke Marsh. And let's see, that was an event I did. And then here's some, here's a couple more at Huntley that I may not have shown. This is some mallard, female. There's a sparrow, egret. Oh, that's a terrible, I had to crop a lot on that one. That's not even 1 megapixel. I don't even know what that is, but it's an interesting bird. And that's, I forget what that's called. Yep, great blue heron. And looks like another mallard. No, this might be a merganser. Yeah, female merganser. Oh, terrible picture. I had to crop in. That's less than 1 megapixel, way less. This is my backyard. Some sparrow stuff. A lot of sparrows in my backyard, and mourning doves. But let me see. Yep, same duck and mallard. Some more mallards landing. But yeah, basically I'm gathering a lot of, or I'm getting a lot of practice in with all these different settings that I'm using. And you know, some of the photos are better than others, obviously, because of the you know, how much cropping I would have had to do. But I really like this one. I was tracking this bird for about, I would say about 100 feet, like 30 yards or 30 meters. And the focus kind of went in and out along the way. You know, like sometimes it would focus on these weeds or, you know, whatever these are. And then sometimes it would focus on the bird. But I was kind of just panning across and tracking him as he was flying. And this was my favorite shot out of that. Some of my friends there, some macro. But yeah, I really like this shot, you know, because we got this little spider down here and this little gnat catcher. I really like this shot. And of course, Ellie. And then I was doing a portrait shoot. And then that's Dyke Marsh. This is some backyard stuff. Okay, so you get the idea. You know, some very, very, very consistent. I had a lot to choose from, and I'm getting a little better at tracking and things like that. So I'm going to, like I said, hopefully this week, I got so many appointments this week, but I'm going to try and put together the video this week of my settings and maybe just forego getting the perfect button layout and let you guys do whatever, because you know, you'll probably not use the same button layout I do anyway. But it's gonna be different than my last birds in flight video. The primary difference being I manually set everything. I don't use shutter priority anymore. I shoot in manual mode. But it's not that much different, right? It doesn't slow you down, and my autofocus settings have been tweaked a little bit as well, particularly the target points and using the function lever. So a lot of things. As you advance as a photographer, so do your techniques, right? Okay, that's that. Let me go ahead and check in the chat. Oh, Marco's here. Good morning, Marco. Good to see you. So that was that. Also, I saw some, someone asked me to do a comparison on DxO versus Lightroom noise reduction. So this is one from, you know, my OM3, and you can see there's a huge difference here between the original raw image and the denoised images, whether you're using Photolab or Lightroom. Both did a pretty good job, but I would still give DxO the edge here, significantly so, with extracting more detail and extracting more detail and reducing the noise even more. So you can go over to my Flickr page and pixel peep this particular image. But yeah, definitely a big difference whether you're using Lightroom or Photolab, but Photolab definitely pulled out more detail, and that's why this is my editor of choice. And I do these every week, the live streams on every Friday, where you can submit your images and I edit them for you. But take advantage of my affiliate link and coupon code and get DxO. Whether it's the pure raw, I prefer the Photolab, full-on photo editor. But you can get just pure raw and still keep whatever photo editor you're using, but get the denoising and sharpening and all of that, for about half the price of buying a full-on editor. So there is that. And also, I caught a new channel this week, a new YouTube channel. I think his name is Jimmy West. I'm going to go ahead and recommend his channel. He shoots with an OM5, but let me see if I can find it for you, and I'll put a link. I don't know why his thumbnails just popped up on my feed, and I said, oh, let me check this guy out. I think it's Jimmy West. Let's see. Yeah, that's him. So, yeah, I watched a few of his videos, and he does a really good job, and he has a very nice demeanor to him. He's very friendly, feels very approachable, and he did a good job. I watched this one on metering modes, this one on micro jitter. This was interesting. I'm gonna have to test this. But these are good videos. So look him up. It's youtube.com/Jimmy West Photo. I really liked the few videos that I watched. I'm sure I watched some more. I watched this one when he was comparing the 20mm versus the the Panasonic Pancake versus the OM Pro 20mm Pro lens. And I would probably skip that one. That one wasn't that interesting. But he has some good stuff. He gives a very similar vibe to Andrew Banner. Andrew Banner also has an excellent channel for tips and tricks and more photography related. They don't really talk about the cameras too much as a, what would I say? It's not really a gear channel, right? They're not doing gear reviews, although gear does come in because we can't take photographs without gear. But yeah, I think they're doing a really good job. So definitely check them out. Now, I've had Andrew Banner on my channel before as a guest. I may reach out to Jimmy and see if he wants to come on and talk about photography. Specifically shooting with the OM5, because it's not a camera I've shot with personally. So there's that. That's another thing that's new and I can recommend. And I guess not much going on otherwise in the news. I don't keep track of rumors and things too well. I don't know what's coming out, but there's a lot of good deals in the springtime. On Tuesdays, I try to do my shopping for deals thing, but I don't really shop for camera bodies and lenses too much, because those are things that they're pretty high ticket items, and it's I don't want to just spend 5 minutes on it in a live stream. But anywho, let's see. Biosynchro has a question. Uh, I've been doing some research on maximum usable ISO for a few cameras. The M3 tops out at 12,800 and S5 tops out at 51,000. That's a two-stop difference, which is not a huge gap. Well, there's a big difference with respect to, it's, from Micro Four Thirds to full frame, generally speaking, we're talking about a two-stop difference in recovering shadows and highlights, right? More in the shadow area than the highlights. I found the Micro Four Thirds, in my experience, it actually maintains the highlights a little better for whatever reason. But in the shadow areas, you can definitely recover a lot of shadows. That said, I'm going to show you, I can pull up two images, both at ISO 12,800. And, ISO is not quite as critical as the light, right? You need to have good light. And if you have good light, you can even go higher than ISO 12,800. But I'm going to show you a couple of 12,800 images. I think they were just backyard birding shots. Give me a second. So that's ISO 1,000, 10,000, 10,000. All right, well, all right, so it's ISO 10,000. So this is an ISO 10,000 shot, and this is the raw. I haven't processed it at all. And I'm zoomed in. Let's go in 100%. That's zoomed in 100% at ISO 10,000. And, the noise is pretty reasonable. And there's a lot of detail here. And if I just applied, deep prime, it cleans up really well. And if I do a little bit of sharpening, it's at ISO 10,000. But if we go back to this image here, this is the one I used for my demo, right? This one is at ISO 12,800, so not even a third of a stop, right? But let's set this as a reference. And we'll compare it to the 10,000 image. Let me reset that one. But you can see there's a pretty huge difference in noise, right? These were taken at roughly the same time. So the light outside, let's see, this one was taken at 6:59. And then this one was taken at 6:57. These are about 2 minutes apart. And then this one, let me just double check one other thing. Yeah. So this is where the difference is, right? Is I let in a lot less light into this image over here. Whereas this one is at 1/1000th of a second, this one's at 1/3200th of a second. The aperture is the same. But you can see it's roughly about 1 1/3 to 1.5 stops difference in terms of how much light I let into the sensor. And it makes a huge difference in how much noise you get. Is how much can you saturate the sensor with light, regardless of what ISO you're at. So this is a reasonable example. A reasonable, it's not one for one. Like they're not both exactly at ISO 12,800, but you can see when you let more light into the sensor, you know, you can minimize the amount of noise. That signal to noise ratio changes quite a bit. So when you're doing comparisons between different cameras and different sensor sizes and things like that, you really need to compare at, you know, how much you need to think about how much light was hitting the sensor when you're doing that comparison. So I've done side-by-side comparisons like this before in the past. It's been a while. And yeah, but it is essentially a two-stop difference. But I would say that I've used a lot of images at ISO 12,800 and they came out just fine. I can't, but anyhow, basically what I'm trying to say is don't think the maximum usable ISO is 12,800 for Micro Four Thirds. It can be higher if you have enough light coming into the frame. That's kind of what I was trying to illustrate with those two images, is that they're roughly at the same ISO, but one image had a lot more light coming in because it had a slower shutter speed and a lot less noise. Okay. And let's see. A lot of chatter here. David says, I thought it was April Fool's joke, but Michael Miko told me that the CEO did buy OM systems from the Japanese investment company. We live in interesting times. What I heard was that the CEO bought controlling interest into the company, not bought it full on outright. So he has controlling interest, like 51% or something. That's what I thought I read. I haven't heard otherwise. But if you have some inside information on that, that would be cool. Okay. Let me go back here. And the other thing was, there was a lot of, Robin Wong did a video on the 50 to 200 4/3 lens, which I have. I didn't watch it yet, but I do have an album in my Flickr, and I'll put a link in the chat section. Let me see. So I'm going to add some more to this. I just have these 9, and all of these were taken, I believe, on the E620. But if you want to check out some of the photos I took using this lens, you can do that. These are more recent. This is taken with the E620 and the 50 to 200 lens. And you can see it's, I think the E620 is a 10 megapixel camera, right? With the 50 to 200. And this image came out really, really nice. Let's see, here's another one. This one I cropped in quite a bit, but still lots of nice detail here of these apartments or condos. This is along the Potomac River. I just like the colors of these buildings. I don't know why. There's a duck, a mallard, and here's an osprey I took with this lens and camera. There's a nice picture of Ellie. But you can see this lens, you know, even with an old E620, is amazing. And I think I have, let's see, I think I do have some shots. Yeah, these are shots I took with the OM3, and it's 50 to 200. Let's see if any of these are. I haven't even applied any details yet, but yeah, this lens is very, very sharp. Here's one where I would have to crop in quite a bit. This is shot wide open. And I pretty much shot everything wide open, and it still did a really good job. Let's see. The only thing that's really a problem with this lens is it's a little slow. It's a little slow with respect to the autofocusing speed. You know, on, I don't know if it's maybe the adapter I'm using, but going from point A to point B and acquiring the subject is a little bit slow. So I had a hard time doing birds in flight and things like that with it. Yeah, it did struggle a bit in that respect. But it is super sharp, as you can see. This is a great lens. So this is the OM3 with the 50 to 200 wide open at f3.5 and 200 millimeters. And here I pretty much filled the frame. So this is pretty good. And I noticed if you stop it down a little bit, it's even sharper. And Adam says, oops, did I miss part? Adam says also, I didn't see the first part of your question, Adam, but did I see you put up some DxO presets somewhere? Where can I find those? Oh, okay. So, let's see. Let's go over here. Just go to my website, robtrek.com. And here under articles, right here, DxO presets. So I will just drop the link into the chat section there. So you can download them directly here, or if I click on the preset this way, you know, you get some more information here. You know, I put a little description in there. The description's not that important. You know, you can just see it here. I have, you know, I have a default preset, which is great for any photo. I have an extra detailed preset that's really good for birding, particularly if you can fill the frame with the bird. It does a really good job. If the bird is too small in the frame, I wouldn't use it because it just makes the bird look kind of too gritty. But when you can get about half the frame filled with the bird, this setting works really well. And then one for high-res shot mode, because OM Workspace generally does a better job at processing high-res shot mode files. But I wanted to create a preset that would process a high-res shot mode as good as OM Workspace does. And right now, this is about as close as I can get to it. And I think it did even maybe a slightly better job. I'm going to have to continue. I may continue tweaking this particular preset. But the other two are pretty much set. They work pretty well. So, for example, let's pick, and these presets are tuned for basically our OM system cameras. I'm sure it'll work with any camera, you know, any you know, and it does, because I did a lot of photos in my other live stream. Let me find some worthy photo here. How about this one? So if I reset this, so this one I pretty much filled the frame, right, with the bird. And then if I apply my default preset, you can see it does a pretty good job at bringing in the details. Let me just pull the highlights just a bit. And then I can apply my extra detail, and you can see it gets a little bit sharper, right? So let me pull the highlights in again. But yeah, this is my extra detail. So it gets a little bit crispier, and I think it does a really nice job, and I can just continue editing from here. You can go in, of course, and just back this off to about 120. For some people, it might be too crispy, so you can just back off the lens sharpening intensity here. And then I have, let's see, some high-res shot modes. Let me see. I think this is a high-res shot. Yeah, this is a high-res shot here. So let me reset this one. But if we come in here and we apply my high-res shot mode, it cleans it up really nice. You know, if we look at the fine details here. So I can do a split with, so that's my high-res shot mode preset. So I think this works pretty well. Anyhow, there's that. And they're all free to download. Of course, you can buy me a coffee or not, but they're there on my website. And Jeff says that 4/3 50 to 200 is a cracking lens, great value for money used. Yeah, it's really sharp, and it's really good, and it's not too big and heavy. And Ken Cox says, hi Rob, just wondering if you know why when I use live comp on the OM1 that the LCD screen goes very dark. Is there a setting somewhere that I need to use to stop it happening? I believe so. This is the OM1. It's pretty much the same on the OM3. But let's go into live comp, right? So we're going to live comp. Yeah. All right, so okay, so right now I'm in live comp, right? Let me put a lens cap on. It's hard to see the screen. So right now we're in live comp, right? So hit the menu button on your OM1. Make sure. And you'll get this setting, right? Composite settings. Click it again, and then you'll back out to bulb and live comp settings, and then scroll down here to bulb time monitor, and just crank this up. So now it's much brighter, right? So if we go back into live view, this will be much brighter. This screen. That should be all you need to do. Okay. Oops. And Adam says, awesome, Rob, thank you. Also was a comment that I ruined my Godox flash with sunlight exposure on the LCD screen. Huh. I'm not sure what you mean. That you ruined your Godox flash with sunlight exposure on the LCD screen. I'm not sure what you mean. What happened there? And then Roger says, just emailed a few macro stacked images of a germanium buds. Dimensions are less than 3. Okay, I'll check those out. And Paul says, Rob bought a black lens cover for my 150 to 400. Adds some extra protection and makes it a lot less conspicuous. Preferred black to camo. Okay. So, a common question, and I had this too, is like, why do they make the lenses white to begin with, right? Um, and it has something to do with the fluorite lenses that they use in these high-end glass. It's very, very sensitive to temperature and can affect the focusing and the performance of the lens and the sharpness and all of that. So, that's what I read. I don't know if that's marketing hype of why they make the lenses white, but I just read they're very, very sensitive to temperature. And the white, painting the white lens white, when the sun's hitting it, it doesn't warm up unevenly, right? White tends to reflect and stay cooler. So I'd be curious to see if you notice any difference in the performance of the lens. I seriously doubt it, right? But I just thought I'd put that out there. And let's see, the screen is now black over 3/4 of the screen on the back. Oh, did you did you drop it or did it just fade? Man, that sucks. I think the only thing you can do is just use it as an off-camera flash going forward. And then Ken Cox says, or Whiplash says heat issues. Yeah, so that was the general. That's the same thing I read, and you can probably look it up. It's a Canon thing. I think I read it from some Canon white paper about it, but it has to do specifically with the fluorite lenses that they use. And Ken Cox says, "Thanks, Rob. Got the screen sorted. Okay, good, good." Um, and then Paul says, "Don't think I'm going to have too many heat issues in the UK." Yeah, I seriously, that's always cloudy over there, right? Man, that 150 to 400 though, that is an amazing lens. I saw some shots this from last week from the OM system ambassadors that I ran into. And, we were side by side for a lot of the same shots. And they were able to get closer because they have the teleconverter. And there's something just a little bit different. I know the 300 is such a great lens, and everyone tells me it's not, you're not losing really much by, with the 300 over, say, the 150 to 400. But there is something different about that 150 to 400, in the images. I can't say that they're any sharper, but they do have a certain feel to them or depth to them that I'm not seeing with my 300 f4. And then Adam says it sat in front of Seacom, windows down, off cam. Oh, yeah. So yeah, just that dedicated to an off-camera flash and use the trigger to control all the settings, right? But okay, kind of a slow morning on questions and topics. Partially has to do with I'm still a little bit out of it. I'm not thinking straight. But let me just check one more thing. So I will be having, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be having the OM system ambassadors that I ran into in a live stream as guests. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be in a couple of weeks, I think. Let me check my calendar. I'll put it up on the, on my website or on my channel, but May 18th. That's my target date right now, is May 18th. So there's that. And Adam says, on your high-res shot work, is there any benefit to start working with the image in own workspace and then transit it to DxO? What work would you do before exporting to a TIFF? So I would not do it. I would stay within DxO for the high-res shots and apply that preset that I created and then work from there. For whatever reason, when I export from OM Workspace as a TIFF file, I don't quite get the same dynamic range from the TIFF files out of OM Workspace as I do, say, if I created a TIFF file in, Photolab. So I suspected that maybe it's exporting the TIFF files as an 8-bit and not a 16-bit. I haven't been able to confirm that, and after a few attempts, I just didn't bother anymore. But don't work with, unless, yeah, I just wouldn't start an OM Workspace at all when it comes to like these high-res shot modes. If you're gonna work and edit a high-res shot mode file, it's probably best to stay in the photo editor that you started with. So if you started with OM Workspace, try and stay there. If you started with DxO Photolab, stay there, but I wouldn't export one to the other and try and work with them that way. There's a few exceptions, but generally speaking, I didn't find that I could maintain the consistent colors and details and all of that when I was trying to transfer between the two. And that's why I generally like working within just one editor when I'm editing a photo. It's really hard to convert and move things around and maintain the image quality and colors that you want. It's a little bit tricky. Paul says, I love the detail that I can extract from the 150 to 400. Only thing I can fault is the bokeh is not that smooth. You can improve that in post-processing though. Right. And then many times, and Heather says, many times the chat goes to more megapixels. There was an interesting article from B&H that improving dynamic range is more important than pixels. Yeah, I mean, it's all important, right? And different things are important to different people. So, for most things, I would I would say they're equally important, dynamic range and megapixels. But you cannot improve the dynamic range really much beyond what we have. We have our silicon, silicon wafer, and that's it, right? How much light can this silicon wafer gather? It's all separated by wiring, the pixels, but it's interesting. It's an interesting, I don't know, I would say both are important, like that E620, I love the detail that I got out of the E620 10 megapixel sensor, but I took the same shot with my Fujifilm X-H2, which is a 40 megapixel sensor, and there's no comparison in terms of the amount of detail that I can get. And dynamic range was irrelevant in that shot. So I'll show you that shot one more time. Maybe I might be able to pull it up. Let me see. Yeah, here's the X-H2. And then here is the E620. I'm just going to arrange these screens real quick. Okay, so on the left here is the E620 and on the right is the XH2. So let's zoom these in to some ridiculous amount. I mean, these were taken at different times of the day. Let me find a good spot. This is as good a spot as any, right here. Let me make this particular part of the boat roughly about the same size. Now, one would argue that resolution is irrelevant, right? It's all about the photography and the composition and the storytelling and all of that. But I don't think anyone would say that dynamic range is the problem here, right? Because the scene is not that dynamic in terms of dynamic range. And I would say this is true for most of my photos where I'm not worried about the dynamic range of the image because I'm capturing pretty limited range to begin with, and a lot of times the highlights are not that important. What I care more about is the detail, and particularly if I'm doing birding, if I need to crop later. So I have to read that article from B&H. But when it comes to advancing camera technology, it has to be all of the above. You can't have, you know, for example, like the Sony A7, what is it? Their cinema camera. What is that thing called? It's a 12 megapixel sensor. It has huge dynamic range, very low noise, all of that stuff, but very low resolution. So nobody as a photographer would really want to use that camera, particularly for birding and wildlife and all of that, right? Versus, say, the Sony A1, which is a 50 megapixel sensor. But I don't know what the dynamic range is between the two. There's not that much difference. Anyway, I have to read that article. I'm sorry, I'm still out of it here. Have you been to Green Springs yet? Yes. I went there. A couple of weeks ago, I think. And I got, where are those shots? Yeah, these were from Green Springs. I did these flower shots. I used my kaleidoscope filter. But yeah, there's some azaleas. I did these shots. There's a tulip. You can see the awning over here. That's kind of signature to the Green Springs garden. Everybody will recognize this particular scene. Here I used my vortex filter. These are physical filters that I put in front of my lens. This is the vortex filter. No filter here. No filter here. Although I did use flash. And this is the kaleidoscope filter. No filter here. And this is also a Green Springs. This is at Green Springs at one of the ponds. This was, what was this? This was the 75 to 300 lens. I didn't have my 300. I didn't bring the 300 f4, but the OM3 with the 75 to 300, and still did a good job. That's also the 75 to 300. The 75 to 300 lens at Green Springs. This is my vortex filter at Green Springs. Green Springs, I tried to do a black and white. This is the vortex filter. This is some algae in the pond. This, I don't know. I tried to do something kind of abstract, but I don't think I posted this anywhere, but I was thinking about it, but I don't think I posted this. So you're seeing it here exclusively. And that's it. This I did in my backyard. Yep. But green, everywhere is starting to bloom. It's really beautiful out. The Flash says the A7S3. Yeah, that's what it's called, the A7S3, right? And the GH5S supposedly had a light at dynamic range in its day. Yeah, because it was a 12 megapixel micro four thirds. I think it was 12, might have been 10, but it was 10 or 12 megapixel micro four thirds with dual gain and all of that. But yeah, Heather, I'll have to read that article. But okay, I'm gonna call it here, guys, because my brain is a little bit foggy. I'm really sorry. I need to go rest a little bit before I go out later tonight for the party. So thank you everyone for joining me today. I'm sorry I'm ending it short today, but you guys are awesome as always. You have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good day. Do that every day and you'll have a good life, right? Eat healthy and exercise. And I hope to see you guys all again.